She didn't want to acknowledge that she had lost. Before a single second of live NBA television was broadcast, before the cameras at Madison Square Garden locked onto the main desk, before Carmelo Anthony leaned in with that silent nod of approval, and before 4.5 million people watched to see something that a significant portion of the sports world claimed was impossible. In a hallway, Caitlin Clark was losing to Jamal Crawford in a horse game. A best of three was not anticipated. And the part was not intended to be like that. The producers had to get ready for a broadcast, a schedule, and a rundown. No, she wasn't walking out of that hallway with a loss on camera, Clark replied, glancing at them. As a result, they ran it back, and she prevailed. Quiet, unplanned, and unseen by the millions of people who would watch minutes later, that moment revealed all the detractors had been denying for 2 years. The spotlight did not find this person. This person has been vying for attention since before most people were aware of her name. Music Caitlin Clark wasn't the only person in the spotlight on February 1st, 2025. It gave her a desk, a primetime spot, and the most significant return to sports broadcasting in 23 years. Today's discussion goes far beyond her debut's highlights. We're making the corporate connections with music that the majority of coverage totally misses. We're breaking down the figures that the league didn't want to make headlines. We're also outlining the reasons why NBC didn't simply schedule Caitlin Clark for a brief cameo. They centered their entire plan around her, one that took years to develop and is based on a commercial model that the majority of casual fans are unaware of. By the conclusion of this, you will comprehend not only what transpired on February 1st, but also why it was always destined to happen in this exact manner. Since nothing else falls into place properly without the context, let's start there. Since the 2002 finals, NBC has not shown an NBA game. Consider the true meaning of it. More than 20 years of quiet at one of the most well-known sports companies in America history of television. For 20 years, NBC watched on the sidelines while ESPN, TNT, and Amazon carved up the broadcast landscape. A whole generation of basketball enthusiasts was raised without ever watching the NBA on a Peacock network, and the players who shaped that NBC era, Kobe, Shaq, and the end of the Jordan dynasty, now work as coaches, analysts, and Hall of Famers, and they occasionally appear on the very program that NBC is attempting to restore. NBC didn't tiptoe back in when they returned. They returned as the focal point of an 11-year, $76 billion media rights agreement, the biggest media rights deal in NBA history. It's nearly impossible to comprehend that figure. $76 billion. That is not a network venturing back into the realm of basketball. It is a complete institutional commitment, a statement that Sunday Night Basketball is more than just coming back. As a showpiece property, it is being completely reconstructed. When it came time to make that commitment, NBC had to make it clear to the whole sports media community that this wasn't nostalgia, but rather something fresh, serious, and tailored to the current audience. They didn't begin with a retrospective of Jordan. The classic NBA on NBC theme was not revived, and coast on emotions. Caitlin Clark was assigned to the Madison Square Garden main desk during prime time. It's not a visit from a guest. That's hardly a heartwarming tale. That's a statement about what NBC thinks basketball broadcasting will look like in the future. And the detractors, who are always the loudest just before they are shown to be mistaken, started attacking straight away. The pattern of criticism was quite predictable. It's worth reading since every detail demonstrates how seriously some people misinterpret Caitlin Clark's true identity. She is too young. She has never worked in broadcasting. She doesn't deserve to sit next to Hall of Famers. She doesn't have any merit. She's just there because of the hoopla. You've heard all of it in various forms. The problem is as follows. It would be a reasonable set of questions if you applied that approach to anybody else. Credentials for broadcasting are important. It matters to have experience in front of a live national audience. The capacity to compete with Carmelo Anthony, Tracy McGrady, and Vince Carter without faltering under the strain of a debut that millions of people are particularly observing to determine whether you succeed or fail. Music, you don't just show up and figure that out. And here's what Caitlin Clark's detractors continuously fail to acknowledge. This is nothing new to her. Clark performed an alternate broadcast akin to that of the Manning cast during the NCAA Final Four. Do you know what others have said about it? She wasn't particularly respectable for her age. For a novice, she didn't exactly show potential. They described her as organic, perceptive, and truly captivating. The kind of television that makes you forget you're watching an extra feed rather than the main program. When she entered the Yankees broadcast booth, she was able to compete with seasoned pros who had been doing this for decades. Since high school, she has been in front of cameras, microphones, and press rooms. Additionally, not once, she never appeared to be out of place in a single instance that went viral on the internet. However, it has little to do with broadcast credentials that critics overlook the most. It's about the unique contributions Caitlin Clark makes to a basketball desk that no one else on the set can match. She has a high level of basketball IQ. It's not something you can imitate with preparation. As well as bullet points, before the snap, she studies defenses in the same way that a top quarterback reads coverages. When she speaks, NBA coaches, real NBA coaches, and musicians pay attention to her sophisticated understanding of spacing, timing, passing lanes, and the geometry of the contemporary game. Someone who played 15 years ago and has been living off of their reputation is not giving you repeated anecdotes. You are receiving analysis in real time from an aggressive, top-tier athlete using the same offensive scheme. The modern NBA is characterized by high-volume threes, pace and space, and inventive playmaking. It is impossible to create that viewpoint. It is not available for hire. It cannot be scripted. Additionally, NBC grasped the concept before the rest of the discussion did. Since NBC did not softly ease her in, let's now discuss the actual night. The Lakers and Knicks will play live from Madison Square Garden on February 1st at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. In one of the world's most electrifying arenas, there will be one of the most historically significant professional basketball games. LeBron James might be making his last appearance at MGS as a Laker, bearing the burden of a legacy that everyone in the building was acutely conscious of. Brunson, Jalen, and the Knicks team is vying for home court position in hopes of making a big victory that alters the perception of a season. Before tip-off, courtside seats were selling for more than $1,000. The building was in a state of expectancy that MGS experiences perhaps 3 or 4 times a season. There was Bob Costas. If needed, read that name again. One of the most recognizable sports broadcasters on American television is Bob Costas. History, going back to the property that shaped a significant chunk of his professional life. Then there's this. On that same program, Michael Jordan appeared as a special contributor. Take a moment to consider that. The NBA's most renowned player. NBC's basketball identity was based on the era of this individual. The reason why hearing that old theme song still makes people feel something. On the night when NBC returned, Michael Jordan appeared, and Caitlin Clark appeared on the same show. It's not a coincidence. That is not a coincidence of scheduling. A clear message about the past and future existing in the same frame was made when Michael Jordan and Caitlin Clark appeared on the same night as the most costly sports rights agreement in NBA history. NBC were fully aware of what they were doing. Warner Music, every executive, producer, and decision-maker who approved that rundown was aware of the audience's reaction to that juxtaposition. The obvious question was the one that went viral as soon as the broadcast concluded. Was she very competitive? Music at the Basketball Night in America desk, Clark accompanied host Maria Taylor. Vince Carter, Tracy McGrady, and Carmelo Anthony are 3 Hall of Famers, 3 of the best offensive players in NBA history. Together, these 3 men have nearly 60,000 career points, several All-Star choices, gold medals from the Olympics, and decades of elite basketball. For someone making their national primetime debut, that panel is not forgiving. She discussed MGS's mystery and was being open enough to acknowledge that it was her first time attending a Knicks game at the Garden, gave viewers the impression that she was genuine rather than staged. Arc music. She talked about how elite athletes rise in stressful situations with the kind of detail that comes from having experienced it firsthand, rather than merely watching it from a couch. The Hall of Famers next to her nodded as she explained the game's components, including the readings, strategies, and quick decision-making. Not the kind nod you offer someone you're showing kindness to on TV. The nod you give when someone says something true, something you understand, something you know is correct because you've spent your entire career doing exactly what they're describing. One of the most popular videos from the entire show was Carmelo Anthony's response to her analysis. There was significance to that nod. Those who have mastered the game do not possess that level of validation without restriction. Clark's Indiana Fever teammate Sophie Cunningham watched the game from home. After that, she said on her podcast that Clark was a natural up there. Chart music not impressive given the situation, not decent for her age, organic. After the NCAA alternate broadcast, everyone used the same word. When the same word continues to, it's hardly a coincidence that individuals who know her best are showing up. That is a constant fact. Then, after watching the program, Aaliyah Boston, a WNBA All-Star and NBC contributor for women's college basketball, posted a straightforward question on Instagram. Boston competes at the highest levels and has no motive to exaggerate. What are you unable to do? That isn't a fan response. You don't get that from someone who is readily impressed. That is an extremely skilled athlete witnessing someone she knows intimately perform at a level that truly shocked even those closest to her. The numbers come next. Furthermore, the figures accurately reflect the true significance of February 1st. 4. 5 million people watched Telemundo and NBC together. And let's put things in perspective because the raw figure doesn't fully convey the importance. Since 2002, that Sunday night NBA regular season game has been the most viewed. Not the most popular debut, not the most popular broadcast for a comeback, not the most viewed game of the season or the month. The most viewed NBA Sunday night regular season game in 23 years. 112-100 was the Knicks' victory. The actual game performed well. The broadcast delivered in the vicinity of it. Furthermore, the figure on the other side validates what the doubters had been claiming was impossible for months, that Caitlin Clark's appeal extends beyond women's basketball. She attracts a crowd, no matter what. In the days after the show, NBC President Rick Cordell was questioned about whether viewers may anticipate seeing a lot more of Clark in the future. He gave a detailed response. He brought up her connection to Xfinity. He referred to her as a member of the family. He made it very clear that February 1st was not a one-time experiment or a planned publicity stunt that would be discreetly put on hold once the ratings were recorded. Her next performance was already confirmed and set for March 29th in Oklahoma City when the Thunder meet the Knicks. The true narrative resides in the words, "part of the family," because Rick Cordell wasn't being sentimental for the cameras when he said it. Or he was outlining a business structure that existed long before any NBC employees convened to organize the February 1st countdown. Because it's more nuanced than a feel-good story, the majority of the coverage on Clark's NBC premiere either ignored it entirely or decided to ignore it. Tale of a teenage athlete securing a place at a large table. Caitlin Clark has a brand ambassador contract with Xfinity. Comcast is the owner of Xfinity. NBC's parent company is Comcast. Shall let the ramifications sink in after reading that chain again. A Comcast-owned company already has a deal with the athlete that NBC selected to star in the relaunch of their most significant sports property in 20 years. She was even before a single camera at Madison Square Garden went online, they were already part of the corporate family. It wasn't a talent hunt, it wasn't NBC executives who decided she had promise after watching her NCAA games. One of the biggest media companies on the planet coordinated their commercial interests in this way. Sports are NBC's largest source of viewers. Comcast increases the yield on a previously signed agreement by using its own broadcast network to activate its current investment in Clark. Additionally, at the age of 22, Clark, who is still in the prime of her playing career, has a platform that reaches tens of millions of people and starts creating a media persona that will survive long after her final game as a professional basketball player. Consider the implications for how athletes generally approach their careers. The majority of players play for 15 years, reach the conclusion, and then frantically try to figure out what the second chapter entails. They make contact with networks. They hold auditions. They make an effort to put what they understand about the game into a television-friendly format. And many of them never fully get it because there's a difference between performing at a high level and effectively expressing what you know. What captivates viewers on television is more widespread than it appears. That chapter is not something Caitlin Clark is anticipating. She is currently writing it concurrently with her playing career, which enables everything else. New viewers follow her feverish games after each powerful event on the NBC set. Her voice in the broadcast booth becomes more and more in demand with each outstanding performance on the court. With her best basketball career still theoretically ahead of her at age 22, the two things are feeding each other in real time, creating a flywheel of awareness and significance that increases every single week. The people at NBC, Comcast, Xfinity, and Clark's own camp are all watching the flywheel spin quickly with the serene assurance that comes from knowing the strategy is working. But before this tale is finished, there is one more thread worth pursuing. And in the days leading up to the February 1st broadcast, it was the thread that lit up every sneaker forum, every basketball media group, and every sports business pundit. In the run-up to the broadcast, NBC producer Sam Flood made it clear that they wanted to see Clark on set with a basketball. It sounds like a minor detail. It sounds like a production letter expressing a desire to continue broadcasting, feeling both visual and athletic. However, that information assumes a completely different significance when you comprehend the surrounding context. Because the most popular hypothesis that continued making the rounds in sneaker forums and sports business accounts was not that Clark was going to perform a shooting demonstration for the cameras. Reggie Miller's portion was not a three-point shot. As entertaining as that would have been, there was speculation that Caitlin Clark intended to make her Nike signature shoe debut live on national television at Madison Square Garden on the evening when NBC returned on a show that also included Michael Jordan. Regarding the release schedule for Clark's signature shoe, Nike has been noticeably unusually silent. A company that uses the kind of planned build-up to promote each new product introduction that causes customers to camp outside stores. Almost nothing specific has been stated before sunrise regarding the shoe's appearance, timing, or placement. Given what we know about Nike's business practices, that silence is a signal in and of itself. It implies that the announcement is being held for a certain amount of time by someone somewhere. A moment that has the most influence, an unrepeatable moment. And consider what would have happened at that moment. 4.5 million people watched. The world's most famous basketball arena. Michael Jordan, the man whose Air Jordans invented the whole concept for athlete signature footwear, is making an appearance as a special contributor on the show. That February 1st stage was the closest thing Nike could have found if they were searching for a launch pad that could match the cultural significance of the original Air Jordan event, in what the present sports environment might provide. Whether the sneaker launch went on as scheduled or was postponed, the motivation behind it reveals all about Nike's plans for Caitlin Clark's business future. She isn't a brand ambassador. She doesn't have an endorsement contract. She is a franchise. Additionally, Nike doesn't wait to reveal a franchise player's shoe without a very strong rationale. On February 1st, 2025, what NBC built around Caitlin Clark was not a wager. I put. The athlete who makes the NBA and put. The athlete who makes the NBA and WNBA seem like a single, ongoing conversation is the one who will shape basketball broadcasting in the future. Rather than two distinct sports in different rooms separated by a wall, the athlete deserves the nod and can sit next to Carmelo Anthony, the athlete with 4 pulls. I'm 5 million Sunday night viewers while continuing to play. The player who defies the gender stereotypes that have artificially constrained the way the sports industry views crossover appeal. The athlete who watched basketball on television as a child and now sits on the other side of the screen, changing the definition of influence in this sport. The thesis was supported by the ratings. With each nod and sincere interaction, the Hall of Famers seated next to her affirmed it. And every time she speaks, a girl from Des Moines, Iowa, who refused to leave a corridor with a loss before the broadcast even began, brings up the point. The individuals who developed this strategy around her were correct on that point. As the 2026 season approaches, the narrative of how this broadcast partnership changes the WNBA's relationship with the NBA is still being created in real time. The Nike chapter is still open. The next appearance on NBC has already been scheduled. The flywheel continues to turn. Additionally, the naysayers who claimed she wasn't deserving of the seat are acting as they always do. When they make a mistake, they are quickly becoming extremely quiet. The next episode of this narrative will be released sooner than most people think. So make sure you're subscribed and have the bell turned on if you want to keep up with everything Clark does on and off the court, in the broadcast booth, and in the business world. Additionally, you don't want to be the final person to witness it.